Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Dr. Gavrik and we're learning labor economics. We are talking about labor mobility and immigration. This is chapter 8, part 5. This is the last part of this immigration chapter. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 4, I highly recommend you go back and find those parts and watch them first. But if you have already seen those parts and you are here now, we're going to learn about the Leroy model, how different countries of origin actually yield different skills of immigrants. So who will migrate to the United States and who migrates to the United States from countries like Turkey and Mexico or countries like United Kingdom and Canada. All right, so for this model, I highly recommend you watch this video carefully. Also, grab a piece of paper and a pen or pencil and take notes. And you can actually adjust the speed of this video, put it in the 0.75 speed so that while you're watching the video, it goes a little bit slower so you can actually take notes. Okay, let's get started. So who will migrate to the United States? Skills vary across different countries of origin, okay? So, and the country of migration. So home source country, immigrant groups, they have different skill composition. Okay, so general rule is this for migration. Workers decide to immigrate to the United States if their earnings in the United States exceed their earnings in their source country, home country. Yes, makes sense, right? The decision ultimately depends on individual skills, right? Also, the returns to those skills in the source and destination countries. So I have skill level S that could be measured in years of education. How much am I getting per year of education in the home country or source country and the destination country? So Roy model considers the skill composition of workers in the source country. Okay. Positive selection. Let's talk about positive selection. Positive selection means immigrants who are very skilled do relatively well in the United States. So you get the highest skilled people in that country move to the United States. Negative selection means immigrants who are unskilled are doing well in the host country, in the United States. So you are getting the lowest skilled people in that country. Okay? Just keep in mind, every country has every skill level of individuals, but what skill level are we getting on an average from each country? And also we'll talk about relative return to skills and how it determines the skill composition of the immigrants from different source countries. Okay. So Roy model says that, okay, this is not a perfect model. Every model has assumptions, but it's an interesting model. It says that disproportionately high-skilled immigrants will migrate from the industrial countries such as Britain, Canada, Norway, and low-skilled immigrants will come from less developed countries such as Turkey is a little bit less developed than USA and Mexico. So let's take a look at the distribution of skills in the source country. So this is the skills distribution. This could be years of education. And frequency is the number of people in each percentage of people in each skill level. S bar could be the average skill level in a country. So S is the skill level of potential immigrant. Excuse me. This is that distribution. The distribution of skills in the source country, this is where immigrants are coming, gives the frequency of workers in each skill level. So if immigrants are above average skills, so this is the average skill level in that source country. If we grab the immigrants from the upper tail end distribution of the skills, so if you're getting these people with SP skills on higher, this is a positively selected immigrant flow. If immigrants have above average skills, this is the average. SP is above average, right? Greater than. The immigrant flow, what we say, is positively selected. If immigrants have below average skills, for instance, S bar is average. So if you're getting these immigrants, right, the immigrant flow we say is negatively selected. Okay, Roy model, we're going to set this model up. So please do have paper and pencil, take notes. S is the skill level of potential immigrant. And we are going to take a look at the skill distribution, frequency of people. Most people are actually centered around the average. So we normalize average skill to 0. Okay, what does this mean, Dr. G? Let's say grab a country, average years of education is 10 years. Okay, 10 is a, right, greater than 0 number. So you have skill distribution. Okay, so S bar equals to 10. So for statistical purposes, we can normalize this distribution such that we can actually do mean adjustment and standardize the mean by equalizing it to 0. So you can, if the average years of education is 10, you can count that as 0. Let's say if you're talking about 12 years of education, then it could take on a value 2. Why? Because we normalize this 10 years of education to be 0. This is called standardizing in statistics. So 12 years of education then becomes 2, right? 8 years of education becomes negative 3. Actually, this is 7. 7, 8. 8 years of education is negative 2. I made a mistake. Negative 1 is 9 years of education is negative 1. And then 10 years of education is 0. This is standardization, and we'll learn about that, why we're doing this. So we're going to assume that S bar, which is the expected value of S, this is the mean. Expected value of S, it goes all the way to the probability distribution function. This is a picture of a PDF. These are all statistics information. By now you have studied statistics. PDF is a probability distribution function. It is S times F of S. This is the PDF that describes this frequency distribution. I'm not going to go deeply in this, but this is a fancy way of writing, saying the average skill level is standardized to 0, nothing more. Okay, so we are going to assume that mean skill level is normalized to 0. That means average person in a country has 0 skills, but that doesn't mean it's 0. It could be 10 years of education. So expected value of skills is 0 on an average. A person, you grab in a population, you grab 1,000 people, on an average their skill level will be 0, which is maybe 10 years of education. That's after standardization. So why 0? Again, I'm building the Roy model, so please grab paper and pencil. This is your final warning. Okay, Y0 is the present value of lifetime earnings if you stayed in your home country. Okay, what is it equal to? It's equal to, Y0 is equal to M0 plus R0S. S is your skill level, your own skill level. R0 is return to your skill in your home country. And M0 is the income to an average person in the home country. Whenever your skill level is 0, this will disappear, right? If you're an average man, you're going to make M0 income, lifetime present value of lifetime earnings at home. I'm going to erase everything. So again, R0 is the return to skill at home. The average present value of lifetime earnings for an average man is M0 at home if you stayed at home as an average person. So average earnings of an average skilled person who stays in the home country is M0. So if you're drawing this, folks, I'm going to just draw skills and earnings graph. I'm just going to draw this, relationship. Y0 equals M0 plus RS. Interesting. So R is going to be the slope. If you draw this, right, I am hoping R0 is positive. I hope education it has to be, right? Return to skill needs to be positive. So it's a positively sloping line. This is supposed to be a straight line. So I'm going to actually grab a, okay, I hope I can draw a straight line now. Straighter, okay? So this is my line, y0 equals m0 plus r0s. So the slope here, this is the slope, is going to be equal to r0. What is this intercept here, folks? What is the intercept? This is m0, right? Whenever s takes on a value 0 at origin, whenever s takes on a value 0, right, this disappears. Y equals to m0. That's the average earnings of an average skilled person. So I'm also going to assume m0 is positive. We are hoping average earnings of an average skilled person in the home country, who stays in the home country, is positive. Next. Again, coming from the other side, so keep this graph in mind because we're going to add to it. Okay, y0 is the present value of lifetime earnings if this individual stayed at home country. We talked about this. Now let's see what happens if this person moves to the United States. So let's define y1. y1 is the present value of lifetime earnings of immigrant with skill level S moves to host country, the United States. Okay, so it's very similar. It's going to be y1, different lifetime earnings, right? You're going to move if this is greater than y0. y1 equals m1 plus r1s. So your skill level is still S. Again, this model's assumption, your skill level perfectly transfers to the new country, United States. But your lifetime earnings as an average individual, man or woman, will be different. And also return to skill will be different. Okay, so R1 is a return to skill in the host country. So if R is higher in the host country, in the United States is the host country, then you see higher inequality. Return to education is high. That means the gap between educated and uneducated is bigger, right? If there's higher return to education. So if R1 is greater than R0, so host country US return to education has more return to education in the US is larger than the home country. Let's say you are in Sweden, okay? So you are seeing if you migrate from Sweden to US, you are coming from a less inequality country to a more inequality country. What does this mean, Dr. G? Sweden has less inequality? Yes. Return to education is not as high in Sweden as it is in the US. There are little differences between the salaries of, let's say, a teacher, high school teacher, and a professor, or a janitor and a bus driver. The differences are not that huge. In the US, we have higher inequality. M1, what is M1? Average earnings of an average skilled person in the US. C is the cost of moving. There is a cost associated with moving from foreign country to USA. So M's and R's are different, but S is identical. So your skill comes with you identically. And the average earnings of an average person in the US versus your home country is different. And also returns to education or inequality is different. So if R is high, if return to education is high, you will see more inequality. So in this country, United States, there's a huge difference between a manager and inequality. Janitor, right? Education matters. If R is low, high R, implies high inequality. Low R, return to education, means low inequality. Countries like Sweden, you will see less differences between, let's say, janitors and managers. Okay? So you will only migrate, this condition will never change. You will only migrate if present value of lifetime earnings of an immigrant with skill level S moves to the host country, United States, minus the cost of migration is actually greater than the present value of lifetime earnings if an immigrant who stays in the home country, right? So if we plug in the formula, M1 plus R1S, this is Y1. We're just plugging in the formulas. Y1, M1 plus R1S minus C greater than, this is Y0, M1 plus R0S. This came from here. Okay, so if you rearrange this, let's keep all the R's on one side, all the other things on the other side. So let's move, whenever we see R1S, let's keep anything that has S on the left hand side. So this is already on left hand side. I'm going to move R0S to the other side. This positive will be negative. And I'm going to keep it here. And I'm going to move negative C and M1 to the other side. So if you rearrange this, I'm going to rewrite it R1S plus, right, I have M1 minus C on the left hand side be greater than M0 plus R0S. I'm going to move this guy to the other side. Move this whole thing to the right hand side. Positive sign moving to the other side becomes negative. So R1S minus R0S greater than, we had M0 here, M0 minus M1 minus C. Great. And we have common term here, S. Put it in S parentheses. R1 minus R0 greater than this term, right? It's the same thing. Okay, so actually we're going to assume M1 minus M0, sorry. We're going to assume M0 minus M1 minus C is greater than 0. So we're going to assume right hand side to be greater than 0. Okay? So in other words, M0 greater than M1 minus C. So the average person, we're assuming, will not find it worthwhile to migrate. So this is the earnings of an average person at home greater than the earnings of the average person migrating to US minus the migration cost. So average guy will stay in the home country, will not migrate. This is one of the weaknesses of the Roy model, right? Lots of people from different skill levels migrate. It's okay. It's going to have its weaknesses, but it's still valuable model. Let's study the case with positive select. This is going to be positive selection case. So you will see return to education skill level is higher in US compared to foreign countries. So this is a case where there's more inequality in the US compared to the home country. So US versus European countries, Canada and Australia, all these countries where they have more equality. So compared to those countries, there's more inequality in the US compared to these countries that are developed. So you're going to migrate the same rule if your present value of lifetime earnings in the US minus the cost of migration is greater, strictly greater than the present discounted value of staying at home. So we're just plugging this, values M1 plus R1S minus C, this is a minus C, greater than M0 plus R0S. Rearrange this, we learned this, right? We came up to here. So we know that this is positive, that assumption still stays. And we're going to divide everything by R1 minus R0. So we can find, I want to leave, divide everything by R1 minus R0. I want to leave S by itself. That's what I'm trying to do. If I divide both sides with R1 minus R0, boom, boom, right? And at the same time, R1 minus R0, so this sign can flip. We're going to talk about that. If you're dividing this inequality with a negative term, this sign will flip, okay? If you're dividing it with a positive term, then it doesn't flip. So is R1 minus R0 positive or negative? Is it positive or negative? So if R1 is greater than R0, R1 minus R0 is going to be greater than 0. So it's a positive term. You divided inequality with a positive term. This stayed like this, greater than whatever this we have here. So S is going to be greater than M0 minus R1 minus C divided by R1 minus R0. So I know that this is greater than 0. This is greater than 0 too. So S is going to be greater than some threshold number, S star. Okay, so this whole thing, we're going to call this, as I said, something like S star, right? This right-hand side. And we know that it's greater than 0, right? Because numerator is positive. Denominator is positive. Positive divided by positive, positive. So you're going to migrate if your skill level is greater than some positive skill level. So let's draw now, right? Now we're going to draw not only your return to migration minus the cost, net of the cost of migration, but also your return to your skills at home country. Skills are on the x-axis. This is 0. We're going to have y incomes here. Okay, so this is if you come to United States. This is y1 minus c. y1 minus c. y1 is equal to, right, m1 plus r1s minus c. I'm going to send minus c next to m1. So it's going to be m1 minus c plus r1s. Okay, so the slope of this is going to be r1. And this is going to be the intercept. Okay, let me just tell you how we found it. y1 minus c I'm trying to draw, and it's right here. m1 plus r1s minus c. So I'm going to bunch m1 with minus c, okay, they're together, plus r1s, okay, r1s. So r1 is a positive number, return in the US is the slope, okay. So slope of this guy is, this is the slope, r1. So how can I draw the return for a person who decides to stay in the home country? Okay, it's going to be y0, okay, that's going to be equal to y0 if I stayed at home. That is simply what we drew in the previous slide. That's going to be m0 plus r0s, okay. So where is m0? What assumption did we make? We said that m0 is greater than m1c. So it's going to be somewhere up here, m0. I don't know exactly where. What about the slope, r0? Well, I am told the slope is smaller than r1. This guy's slope is, here slope is r1, right? So I'm going to draw something flatter and starts somewhere here. So I'm actually going to put the graph. Okay, so this is your return if you stayed at home. So if you stayed at home. Okay, so this is the return. I'm tracing it imperfectly. If you stayed at home, m0 plus r1's s. I know that m0 is greater than m1 minus c, which means an average person gets paid more present value of lifetime earnings if they stay at home versus if they move. And slope of this return in the US is R1. The assumption said it's greater than the return to skill at home. So slope of here. So for instance, in Netherlands, right, and in some countries they have guaranteed income for homeless people. So I was actually in Singapore, and they give homeless people condos for free. There's no homeless population, but the tax rate is very, very high, 40% or more income tax rate. A motorcycle that's about $40,000 in the United States, Harley Davidson, in Singapore is $90,000. So everything is taxed more. It's an example like this. So who is going to move to US? This line, right? This is the return to your skill as measured in y-axis. This is your skill, right? Return to your skill at home is here. Return to your skill at United States, if you migrate, is here. United States return to skill exceeds the return to any skill level in this range. So these people will migrate. This is the S star. And these people won't migrate. Why would I migrate? This is how much I'm getting at home. I'm going to use a different color. This is how much I'm getting at home. Why should I get this lower US return if I am low skill, less than average skill? No. Okay. So that's the idea. So this is the S star, that critical threshold skill level greater than 0. We just figured it out. So you're going to migrate if your S skill level exceeds this. These guys will migrate. So these people will migrate or move to US. High skilled people, right? Positive greater than 0. And these people won't move to US. If I'm a janitor, I'm better off in Denmark. Because if I'm a homeless person, I'm better off in I have a friend who his fiance is he's on public assistance, I believe. He moved to Turkey, right? And his public assistance gives him a really good life in Turkey, and he's disability due to public assistance. So that's the idea. Who gains from moving? Those who have highest skills in Canada, Australia, or European countries will have biggest incentive to move to USA. Average skilled people, they don't want to move because of cost of migration. So the average skill level 0, they won't move because this is what they get in the US. This is what they get at home. S star, this is what they get at home and USA. So we're assuming the marginal person doesn't move. High skilled people, go hit the first curve. This is how much they get paid at home. Go hit USA. Oh, this is how much they're making at US. Even more skilled people. Home. Oh, USA. I'm going to move. Least skilled people won't move to USA. If I'm a homeless person in Singapore, I get a free condo and fixed income. Why should I move here? This generates positive selection. That means we are selecting the highly skilled people from Canada, Australia, and European countries on average. Let's talk about the case where we have negative selection. So this is a case where US return to skill is less than return to skill in other countries. Home country. Example is US versus Mexico. Compared to Mexico, United States has less inequality. So US is more, right, equality compared to Mexico. That means return to education in Mexico is higher compared to US. We're talking about relative terms. So this was the rule. Migrate if, right, this was the rule. We talked about, we rearranged it. Migrate if S times R1 minus R0 is greater than M0 minus M1 minus C. We got this already. It's in your notes. So we're going to divide everything by R1 minus R0 to leave this S by itself, right? R1 minus R0. Let's see if this R1 minus R0 is positive or negative. So R1 is less than R0. Therefore, R1 minus R0 is going to be less than 0, right? I just put this on the other side. The positive sign becomes negative, moving to this side. So this is a negative number. This was a positive number. This is a negative number. If you actually do this division, you have an inequality, right? You divide both sides of an inequality with a negative number. This sign is going to flip direction. So it's going to be S less than, right, M1 minus, M0 minus M1 minus C divided by R1 minus R0, okay? So I know this is a positive number, this is a negative number. If you divide positive with negative, this whole thing becomes a negative number. So negative means less than 0. So this S star, right, let's call it S star star, is less than 0. So you will migrate if your skill level is less than S double star, which is a negative number. Interesting. Let's draw this graphically. Okay. So just repeating everything. R1 minus R0 is negative. So S is less than this expression. This is called as S double star, right? And this is less than 0. So let's draw this again, right? Skills here, present value of incomes if you stayed at home, present value of income if you came to US. So this is your home situation. Home, what was this? Present value of income at home, M0 plus R0S. M0 is here. R0 is the slope here. Slope, positive number. So M1 minus C, I'm going to draw, right? I'm going to draw the return to your skill level in the US. Y1 minus C. So it's M1 minus C plus R1S. So M1 minus C, we know that M0 will be always greater than M1 minus C. So average person doesn't migrate. So M1 minus C is someone here. M1 minus C. What about the slope of this line? It's R1, which is less than R0. So it's going to look like this, folks. It's going to be a line flatter than this home country return passing through here. Okay. So let me show you what it looks like nicely drawn. Okay. So it's going to look like this. So this is your return to your skill in the US. Y1 minus C. Again, like I derived it. M1 minus C plus R1S. There you go. So you will migrate if, and the intersection is here. We were trying to find that intersection point. This is S double star. So we find that this point where they intersect, and people who will migrate are those who have skill level S, which is less than S double star. So these people will migrate. These people won't migrate. So S double star is here. We will not move. If you're in Mexico with high skill, above average, and a little bit above average too, these people will move. Why are these people moving? People will move. Imagine having a low skill, less than S double star. I'm sorry. Go hit the first curve that comes your way. This is it. This is the return to your income at home versus go hit the USA. Your income in USA, this one is much higher than staying at home. Okay, so a janitor in Mexico makes much less than a janitor in the US. Let's take a look at these people. Very highly skilled Mexican worker. Go hit the first curve that comes your way. Okay, I'm a CEO in Mexico. This is how much I get in the US. Oh, at home I'm actually making more money. Why should I move to US? I'm not going to move. So anybody in this range will not move. We only capture lower skilled workers. Who gains from moving? Those who have the lowest skill levels have the highest incentive to move in this case. So generates negative selection. Okay, what if cost of migration goes down? This is very interesting. In case 1, you still have positive selection. S star will decline. Okay, so immigration will increase. Selectivity will go down. There will be less positively selected. So I'm going to go to that graph actually just to show you guys. Let's clean everything. Okay, so if C goes down, right, that means this thing is increasing. Shifting to the, hold on, C goes down, right? M0 minus C goes down. So C goes down. Immigration is less costly. This thing is going to go up, M1 minus C. So this US return curve, this red one, is going to shift up here, right? Because Y1 minus C is growing. And S star moves here. When S star moves here, you get now all these people to the right, right? In the previous case, only these, now these people right here as called as S prime and more are migrating. In the past, only these people moved greater than S star. Okay, so you're gonna get many more migrants. Skill level is still going to be positively selected, but it's going to, on an average, their skill level will be lower compared to that. Less selection, but it's still positive selection. So positive selection, selectivity goes down, immigration increase. In case 2, if C goes down, negative selection, still negative selection. S double star will go up, immigration will increase, selectivity will increase. You're going to have less negatively selected. What if Y1 declines? Return to present value of returns to US declines. This is a shift down and returns to skills curve in the US. Fewer workers will migrate to US and type of selection, positive, negative doesn't change. So I'm going to go back if, what if C goes down in negative selection? So in this case, okay, C goes down. C goes down. This Y minus C will move up like this, parallel shift. This is Y1 minus, call it C prime. So M1 minus C is moving here, right? Then you will have these people moving now instead of only these people. So we always look at the intersection, right? These people move. So you have many more people moving. They were very negatively selected. They're still negatively selected, but the average skill level is increasing. Why? Because you have these little bit higher skilled people moving now. Okay, that's pretty much it, folks. And this concludes the migration chapter. I will see you in chapter 9. Take care.